Greetings sailors and welcome back to World of Warships, and my second attempt at doing this video because I kind of messed up the first attempt. Well, kind of it was me and kind of it was OBS. I did some monkeying around with my computer yesterday and that reset some of OBS's settings apparently, and one of the things it messed up was that it reset the recording bitrate back down to its default of 3500 kbps, which is not very high. That's the kind of upper end of, like, if you're doing streaming, for example. In fact, it might even be lower than that. And it tends to get very blocky when there's lots of motion going on. So it did not look good, and there wasn't really any way I could recover the recording from it being a low bitrate. So here we are doing it again with the correct settings. Now, the reason I was monkeying around with my computer is, incidentally, and if you've seen a channel post from yesterday as I'm recording this, you'll know this, I bought a new GPU, except I can't actually use it at the moment. I was hoping that this would be recorded on my new GPU, but it turns out there's an issue with needing another PCIe cable to hook it up to my PSU, because my current one only needs a single cable, whereas the new one's got a kind of splitter device and it needs two separate cables coming from the PSU. And I don't have two separate cables for the PCIe slots apparently, so I'm in the process of either trying to get a hold of one which is going to fit my Corsair PSU, and these things are not interoperable. You can't just plop any old PCIe cable in there. It has to basically be one from the same manufacturer that will work with that model of PSU. And yeah, so I've got this very expensive paperweight on my shelf at the moment in the form of a 4070 Ti. So I will get to use that at some point, but not just now. So the subject of today is the Leipzig. It is the IRL sister ship of the Nuremberg. These are actually both pretty light cruisers, but they're also, I mean, we sort of maybe associate them with their service in the Kriegsmarine, but they actually predate the Kriegsmarine. They go back to the Reichsmarine, or whatever it was called, the Weimar Republic Navy. And much like its sister ship, it is lightly armed. It's got that kind of funky but actually kind of decent rear turret arrangement, but it does have some very, very notable differences that make it basically unique amongst German cruisers. In fact, it makes it kind of un-German. It's almost more like a Japanese cruiser. Now, Nuremberg itself has got very good range for being a mid-tier cruiser, and it's also got, of course, the German HE pen, and this does have that as well, but not so much the range. The range is actually pretty bad, 13.5 kilometers. It's not the only tier 6 cruiser with bad range, but it does make it rather un-German. However, that is paired with an extremely good 8.7 base concealment, or not base concealment, with concealment expert. But yeah, the base concealment on this is very good, and with concealment expert it gets even better. That is unusual for a German cruiser, and it's just kind of unusual for a cruiser of this tier anyway, for it to be quite that good. Again, there are some other short-ranged cruisers that do have good concealment, but I'm struggling to think if any of them are quite as good as 8.7. I don't think Leander's quite that good. Maybe something like the Dido? I don't know. But yeah, that is pretty nice for any cruiser, but I mean, it would be amazing if it was paired up with the longer range of the Nuremberg, but also maybe a little bit OP. But what really does make this weird and different are the torpedoes. This has got 10 kilometer range torpedoes. I don't think there's any other German cruiser that has that. There's some of the others have 8. I think Grashspee and Schill in particular have 8 kilometers, and maybe one of the battleships has got 8 kilometer torps as well, but mostly they are 6 kilometer torpedoes. 8 kilometers is unusual. 10 kilometers is just flat out weird, and they're also not bad in terms of their damage. Although this is boosted by, I basically have all the relevant torpedo captain skills. They also have a very, very good reload. I think the base is, 65 seconds? With captain skills, that's down to 61. With adrenaline rush in play, that can go down below a minute. This thing can stealth torpedo, and it can stealth torpedo with great rapidity for a cruiser. In fact, even for a destroyer, that would be with great rapidity. Now, it's only 2 triple launchers per side, but combined with the decent damage, that actually makes for a fairly significant punch. And the whole package is just weirdly un-German. There are not that many cruisers that can stealth torpedo, and certainly this is the only one that's German. And what this means is basically it has to have its own captain, because there really aren't a lot of cross-compatible skills if you're trying to play with the maximum strengths of this thing. I did actually have a couple of games in it with Gunther Lutyens, and Lutyens does have a rather nice special skill where if you get 140 main battery hits, you actually extend the main range, which is useful when your base range is only 13.5. But my Lutyens is geared towards heavy German cruisers. This is not a heavy German cruiser, this is a torpedo-based cruiser, so I've had to give it its own captain and basically pack on all the relevant skills I could think of. I could maybe have not taken radio location. That's not exactly an essential skill for this ship, but it's just kind of nice to have. I could have redistributed those points elsewhere, maybe gotten a few more hit points with a survivability expert. Possibly I could have gone for demo expert and like consumable enhancement, for example. Or possibly I could have tried to buff the AA a little bit. But yeah, I decided to go for radio location. The rest are just sort of no-brainers, really. I ended up putting a single point into incoming fire alert because I just had a point left over. I did debate maybe using gun feeder or else last stand, but last stand I don't really think there's much need for it on this ship. The steering gear on some cruisers is pretty fragile, but this one feels okay, generally speaking. Gun feeder, there's an argument for that, certainly. But yeah, I went with incoming fire alert, which I never pair with priority target, so I was just kind of curious as to what it would be like to have both of them at the same time, because just because someone's aiming at you doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be firing at you. So it's like extra information. Not necessarily information that you need, but I figured it might be useful. What is this matchmaking? Seriously, it's the middle of the day. If I was recording this middle of the night, I might expect similar funkiness, but yeah, this is weird. This is very weird. Okay then. I mean, on the plus side, we are top tier, but I don't know. I don't know. I guess we'll see how this works out. I wonder if somebody was waiting in the queue for a while and it's just forced a match with whatever ships it had available. It might be this division here actually. Yeah, tier 5 and tier 6 in a division. Sometimes you get funkiness with people playing different tiers within a division, and I think this is the result. So that is probably the explanation. Right, this being a standard game is definitely not optimal, but we will try some preemptive area denial torps. Anyway, this is where radio location actually does come in quite useful, because you can just spam those torpedoes out. It's like a budget Benham, if the Benham was a much slower cruiser with a slightly slower reload and fewer torps, and also tier 6 and also a cruiser. But otherwise exactly like the Benham. Yes, but honestly, even for a Japanese cruiser, this would be unusual, just having torpedoes that reload that quickly. Although if it's a Japanese cruiser, it would also have more powerful torpedoes, which you could then buff even further with the captain skill. Right, that has got to be one of their destroyers or subs, and so let's get the hydro going just to be on the safe side. You might have noticed, yes, you get both hydro and defensive, which is quite nice, and a catapult. And the only other ones I can think of offhand that get that as just a default combo of both is the American light cruisers. So, you know, it's quite nice to have, but honestly, having said it's quite nice to have, its base AA power is pretty naff. So it's just kind of propping you up a little bit. It's not actually that good. Right, it's the Visby, okay. And he's the one that's firing at me. Someone else has just taken notice though. Might be the Normandy. Not too worried about the Visby. There's the Iron Duke. There's incoming Normandy shells and the Trento. Okay. Right. And ouch, that was a chunk of health. Right, let's fall back. Sometimes you can a little bit get carried away with the sneakiness, I will admit, and that may have happened to some extent here, but we can, now that the Visby is behind an island, we can actually just stealth up again. The lack of hit points is not nice, but that's true of Nuremberg as well. It's true of a lot of the tier 6 light cruisers. You really just have to be careful about taking hits. You could maybe make an argument of like, hey, it'd be nice if this thing had a heal, but that would make it a little unusual, and maybe might push it over into being a tad OP considering how good the torpedoes are for being a tier 6 cruiser. Right, let's just, again, preemptive torpedoing. Visby's down, which is nice. Did a bit of damage to them. I think it's just the Trento in the middle. It would be lovely if there were maybe one or two more battleships that I could get into a position to drop torpedoes on. One of the games I had yesterday recording was actually, I mean, it was a crushing defeat, but I got into a scenario where I was able to drop torpedoes and stay stealthed ahead of an oncoming battleship, and eventually was able to sink them. So although it was a crushing defeat, it did demonstrate almost an optimal use case of the torpedoes. But that's definitely not going to happen in this particular wacky setup. Right, Normandy's still too far away. And, you know, we've got the torpedoes back already, because they just reload that quickly. In fact, they reload even quicker now that we've taken some damage. What is that? 56 seconds. Actually, talking of reloads, one thing I didn't mention in the port was the slower rate of fire than the Nuremberg. The, was it base 7.9 seconds? It's not like it's completely out of place for a 6-inch gunned cruiser to have a sort of 8-ish second reload. It's just compared to the Nuremberg, it feels kind of sluggish, because the Nuremberg does have a rather nice reload. But anyway, there's a smoke between me and them, so we can afford to. Are you going to eat? Can you eat a torpedo? Yeah, have fun with that, Trento. I forgot to lock my. Nice. I forgot to lock my turrets. Yeah, people don't expect, like, you don't see Leipzig very often. People don't expect the Leipzig torpedoes because German cruisers don't have long-range torpedoes. That's silly talk. It is absolutely silly talk. What on earth? It's like, they have to be coming towards you, and, you know, so if somebody's coming towards you in a German cruiser, then okay. You learn to be a bit cautious, but stealth dropping torpedoes in a German cruiser, that's ridiculous. Not possible. Except with this, it kind of is. It almost surprises me it's not a high tier ship with this concept. Like, surely they... I mean, they might do it at some point. They might give us another variation on the York hull or the Hipper hull or whatever, and it's got a longer reload, but it's also got these same 10-kilometer torpedoes. Who knows? But it's quite nice when you get these interesting variations on things, because it does give you something a bit different from the norm to play with. The only real downside is, you know, you do need its own captain for it. So swings and roundabouts, kind of. But with how captains work these days, I mean, this is literally one of my just regular destroyer captains that happened to be at 21 points that didn't have a cruiser layout yet. So, you know, the way captains work these days, it's not that big of a deal. You can put a captain of some other line in and basically be fine. Right, do I have enough room here to turn around and get my other side of Torps out? You're already changing course, aren't you? It's got a bit of leeway. I want to be a little bit cautious here. Okay, the Undine is probably going for the base, maybe. You do have airdropped. Oh, I was trying to make that gap, and it's fine. It's fine. Nothing's gone wrong here. I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, it does have airdropped things, depth charges, which is quite handy. Some cruisers, especially some of the squishy cruisers, do not have those, and that's always unpleasant. It basically means the scenarios where you can actually go after subs are kind of few and far between. And yeah, fortunately that's not the case. Oh, it's the sneaky little Igler that's firing at me. Right, can I just about without running aground? He's going forwards again. Okay, we're sort of dropping at max range here, so this is not like ideal, but yeah, we are going to have to go for the cap and also really take care of that Igler as well, because they're going to be sort of annoying on the flank. Oh well, pity that the Torps didn't do anything, but hey, they reload so quick that it's not really a major loss. Like if this was the what's the tier 6 Japanese, not Agano. Agano's the tier 5. But anyway, the long range, like the 12-kilometer ones. And again, you can stealth torp with those, but the base stealth isn't as good, and the reload is much worse. So yeah, it doesn't even really play like the stealthy, the potential stealthy Japanese cruisers. It's kind of its own thing, really. There's nothing else that's exactly like this within the cruiser space. Right, we know the Igler's kind of unhealthy. Oh, there you are. Oh, I thought you were close to that one. Never mind, you got him, Hatsuharu. Nice. So that just leaves the enemy Hatsuharu. We know exactly where they are. So radio location, yeah, kind of useful. Not a bad investment of those 4 points. And there they are. Okay. There they are, and they are not reacting at all. Alrighty then. Well, this might be a free kill for me. Maybe they just gave up. Who knows? So not quite 50k damage. Not bad. Second place on the team. Yet, having said that, you know, it's not like there was lots of hit points to go around. There was definitely fewer hit points to go around than normal. So I will take it. What a weird game. So let's do another one and see how we do. Maybe we'll get slightly more normal matchmaking this time. Ooh! Well, when I said more normal matchmaking, I didn't mean double CV, double submarine game. But okay. Thank you, World of Warships. At least it's domination, but maybe that's worse with double CVs? Ugh. Anyway, well, you'll get to see what the AA is like in this one, I suppose. Spoiler alert, it's not very good, but you know, that's true of most tier 6 cruisers. I suppose you could try and buff it a bit with captain skills, but why would you when the torpedoes are right there? Okay, first up, Akatsuki. I'm not planning on like going in the cap or pushing this particularly hard because this is not a cruiser that's really built for that. And of course in the Nuremberg I would have much more range to play with. So you have to be more cautious if anything, which is sometimes a thing I have difficulty remembering. Akatsuki, you still going to be in your smoke? I don't know, but let's put some torps out in that direction. See if we catch something, you never know. I might just turn around and head more south, to be honest, because we don't have that many ships up here. And with a number of CVs buzzing around, might be quite easy to get just unpleasantly caught out. Not spotted yet though. We know there's one sub there. The other sub's going to be down south, I guess. No divisions in this game, apart from the Bien. So, a division of 1. Does that count? Not sure. Right, Canarius. Oh, not quite close enough. You must be on the surface to be spotting me. Ouch. Right. Yes, you are. Okay, now I'm unspotted, which is nice. Did we run away? Maybe we'd run away. Maybe we run away. I'm not liking this. Not liking this one bit. You do have a reasonable tone of speed and a straight line. In fact, I think the speed might be the same as the Nuremberg, but I'll have to double check that. But you don't have a speed boost or anything, you don't have destroyer mobility, so... Although sometimes it's a little tempting to play this like a destroyer, it really isn't. It really isn't. I could take a couple of pot shots at this Scharnhorst. Is it worth the risk? Maybe. I might regret this. I might regret this. He's about to go behind an island. That doesn't mean he won't get some shots off. Well, that did no damage. Okay, never mind. Also took almost no damage. Right, it's a pity that didn't really do much, but what can you do except try? Sometimes the shorter range is like it's a double-edged sword. It can be useful in the Nuremberg to have that shorter range, to have that longer range, to have the better ability to dodge incoming fire, and just to be able to, you know, hit things from further away, from a safer distance generally, and have more opportunities to shoot things. But at the same time, you know, if you do fire, then you're going to be spotted from much further away. Whereas with this thing, you kind of almost, with this amount of stealth, okay, it's not quite destroyer stealth, but you still almost have to be thinking like a destroyer in terms of playing around the edge of your detectability when firing. So you can fire at something that's just at the edge of range and then disappear versus a slower target, or just try and be sneaky generally. It's like easier to get out of your firing range than it is with other cruisers. So yeah, it's a double-edged sword. Like some destroyers, I purposefully do not take the gun range upgrade for that very reason. Hugo, you're about to get torpedoed, and it seems like we didn't do that well down south actually. So there's not really a super safe spot to go to, it seems like. Also, hello Queen Elizabeth. We've actually got the Bayern and the Normandy coming up here. Colorado, the enemy Colorado is as well. Queen Elizabeth. Our Colorado is now basically down there alone, which is not great for them. Yeah, we've got fire going on the Scharnhorst, that's nice. Canarius is AP only, I believe, if I remember correctly. Well, okay. I guess the Shumphorn. I mean, maybe I could use AP here, actually. I do have a broadside on this cruiser. We're still doing okay work with our HE, however. Yeah, they're all very focused on the Hugo at the moment. Right, let's not run face first into... Oh, of course, the moment I load AP, that's when he, you know, was like, I'm going to angle a bit. Rude. Okay. This is all looking a little bit messy. Not going to lie, a little bit messy. I mean, with double CVs and double subs, it was always going to be unpleasantly messy. Right, where are you going, Canarius? Oh, Colorado's coming on that side as well. Right, who is going where? Because I don't want to be at the forefront of anything. You certainly wouldn't want to be in a Nuremberg. I think this might be worth a bit of extra Dakar. A little bit. Ooh, what's Queen Elizabeth of the Colorado having a pop? My opportunities for angling against things are not great at the moment. I'm gonna do what I can. Can hit the Colorado? Maybe. I'll know in a second. They're not the fastest torpedoes. I mean, I have sped them up a bit. I think the base speed is like 59 knots. Sometimes slower can help a bit with the element of surprise, actually. It's not the worst thing in the world to have slower torpedoes if they're longer ranged ones. The Italian cruisers are kind of the same way, actually. Right, this Scharnhorst seems to be exclusively firing HE, which is not the worst thing, but it still kind of hurts. I might have some chance deflecting the AP, but the HE is still going to do some damage regardless. Right, here's maybe where I try and just stealth up. Let's hold fire. Which of course means doing less damage, but also means I can go back to trying to stealth torpedo. Because there's a lot of people taking interest in me right now, and I'm not sure I appreciate it. There's not a lot of health left. Ismail, you are... See, that's like quite well outside the, 13 kilometers, but they're coming this way, and the torpedoes don't run down their track that fast. So it's actually fine dropping at this range. I think we are kind of losing this a little bit, though. Well, we are actually ahead on points a little bit, but I mean, we're sort of being herded in a way I don't really like. At least their CVs are busy with other things. See how we are with these torpedoes. Got a moment to just observe them doing their thing. Looks like we're going to get some hits. See, nobody expects the long-range German torpedoes. They just don't, because long-range German torpedoes are not a thing. So that was only one. But still, decent damage. And then I think he's turned enough that the second lot aren't going to do anything. But they're actually almost back again on this side, so that's fine. Okay, they just lost a CV. So Normandy going for the independence, it looks like. So this is kind of what happens, like I was describing in that game the other day, in my failed attempt at doing this previously. It's just being stealthy and dropping torpedoes towards an incoming battleship. And he doesn't have radio location, so yeah, but he also now knows there are torpedoes coming towards him, so he might be manoeuvring a bit more, which is the sensible thing to do in these circumstances, rather than just driving in a completely straight line and letting the torpedoes hit you. So let's switch targets to the Colorado. You are manoeuvring at the moment. I don't know if you're turning more towards the middle. Let's try that. And then what we can do is put the Torps on the other flank up. So we see our carrier, one of our CVs, skillfully depth charging the enemy sub. It definitely was 100% their skill and not them just, you know, hitting them with the auto depth charge thing, because CVs! Right, that's a bit of a guesstimate based on the radio location. But, oh no, he's headed this way. Okay, never mind. Yeah, radio location only tells you where they are, doesn't tell you where they're going. Okay, those aren't going to hit unless he's actually... I think he wasn't going full speed there. He's now actually turning back in towards the B cap. If we get the A cap again, I mean, it's also... I can't see what health the Shiratsuyu's on. Oh, that Bayern's not looking healthy. Yeah, if we can keep ahead with the caps, maybe? Oh, if I'd waited just a second longer, never mind. He'd have been within spotting range. It's slightly unnerving being this close to a battleship in a cruiser that's this squishy and not being spotted. Right, Ismail, where are you? Are you going at the other side of the island? And we can just keep spamming these out. I mean, we're now so low on health that we've shaved off... Oh, nice. Oh, very nice. We've shaved off... I mean, the base was, what? 65, and it was down to like 61, so we've taken off basically 10 seconds. Right, I've considerably softened up that Ismail now. Colorado, that's too far away and not coming in this direction enough. We're going to get the kill. I think this is looking decent. And if well, this is going to be at least one, and there's, oh, maybe two. There we go. 100k. So that's the kind of scenario where the torp reload and the range just becomes mwah, chef's kiss. But we had to lose a lot of health to get here. We might actually win this one. It's a little close. They do still have a CV and a healthy Colorado. The CV especially is going to be a problem if they spot me, which they might do. Or are you going more for the Bayern? What's the air spotting range on this? 5 kilometers, which is pretty decent for a cruiser. Right, you're more going for the Bayern, that's fine. Let's now concentrate on this Colorado then. Yeah, the fact that there's still not CV in play makes this a very risky game indeed. But we kind of need to hurt that Colorado, if not kill them outright. Scharnhorst is not quite half the health, but yeah, a lot less. So that's going to be one. The Torps do spread out a bit, but that's fine. Given that they, you know, run for such a long time. This is proper Benham play right here. Well, that's probably the closest ship I can compare this to, honestly, with the way you get to play it sometimes. Oh, that looks lovely. That might actually be a kill on the Colorado. That's going to be 3. Yes, there we go. Just caught the tail. Nice, 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 nice. 135k. And Canarius, well, Canarius is not super I don't want to open fire. Like, if it was just the Canaries, then yes, but the Scharnhorst, even the Scharnhorst HE could be problematic for me. So if they can take out the Canaries, then I can just see if I can repeat the trick on the Scharnhorst. So yeah, I was kind of hoping for a match like this, and it's turned out that way very nicely. Where I'm absolutely getting to show the main strength of this ship. But of course, not every match is going to be like this. When you have a ship that has this one particular kind of niche thing that it's really good at, then that's great. But, you know, in other circumstances, it might be a lot less useful. Like that previous match where it was still okay damage, but it wasn't anything special. Whereas this, for a tier 6 cruiser, I think we're doing pretty well here. 10 torpedo hits. That's not bad at all. Right, the fact that we have both our CVs, I mean, did we lose the Bayern? We did. This is kind of turning into a CV match at the moment, and it does mean if I try and cap, that might be a bit of a problem. But our CVs are just going to nail that Scharnhorst. We'll try and get the... Oh, no, you're turning this way, you're turning this way. I was going to say we'll try and get the cap, but yeah. I absolutely would like the Scharnhorst to be dead before I attempt to... The Independence is not particularly healthy either. Okay. It might be quicker just to hunt the Independence. Having said that, we're also quite close on time. I'm sort of glad I was forced to re-record. These matches have turned out to be far more entertaining than either of yesterday's were, to be honest, but that's just how it is when you're recording live. You don't know if you're going to get good matches or terrible ones, which is kind of the whole point, is to give a snapshot of that random battle experience rather than the more carefully curated replays that are usual. Right, I'm just popping the fighter preemptively, just because I thought they might be coming this way and you need your fighter to have a little bit of lead time, but no, we're okay. Let's just get in the cap, disrupt their points. I don't think there's enough time for them to overtake us, but yeah. Heck, even if we're just getting the spotting, we might actually be able to get in range and fire upon this Ranger within the last minute. Here's where Nuremberg would be already pew-pewing and probably have had the kill already. Oh, hello there. Would you like to get a taste of my extremely amazing AA? Not really. Right, I think this Ranger may get to live. But I would quite like to live as well. So, you know, there's that. Yeah, we do have more than enough points, that's fine. Defensive still going. Got to have a little bit of it. Yeah, even versus a tier 6. Oh, make the turn, make the turn! There we go, absolutely. Never worried at all, absolutely fine. Do my shells even have time to get there? Probably not. Oh, there we go, a little bit of extra damage. So there we are, that was actually quite an entertaining match, and over 100k in a tier 6 cruiser. Pretty good, I would say, pretty decent. But it was absolutely the right circumstances for it, being able to drop torpedoes towards battleships that were coming my way and not have to worry too much about being air spotted in the process, even though there were those 2 carriers. So that about wraps up this video for the Leipzig. It's pretty fun for a mid-tier cruiser, and it's just a bit different than really any other premium cruiser. I can't think of anything else that's quite like this. There are things that come kind of close, I mean, Atago maybe in terms of its torpedo ability, and of course it's higher tier, has a heal, etc, etc. But yeah, there just isn't anything on the cruiser lines anywhere that can spew out long-range torpedoes with such rapidity and with such decent damage. Heck, even among the destroyer lines, if they have a quick reload, they tend to not have great damage, and I think Benham is the only exception, and even then it's sort of middling damage. It's decent. It's not like Japanese long lance torpedo damage, but it's still decent. And in this case, yeah, the torpedo damage also is quite decent, considering all the other characteristics you have going on. So it's a funky wee ship, and I like it. I could also, like I did with the Tokachi, take this into operation to round this out, but I don't think it's really necessary, to be honest. Taking a tier 6 anything into operations is usually doing it on a harder mode. This does have the advantage of the torpedoes being rapid firing, but you are also working with the severe handicap of a low health pool, bad armor, and the extremely real chance of getting an operation that does not have any kind of healing going on, because I think something like half of them don't. So if you get like Narai, for example, or even something like Hermes where you get the healing halfway through, that's something. But yeah, Killer Whale, for instance, where you don't, or I'm struggling to think of operations now, but other operations where you don't, the health pool becomes an absolute liability, and it gets very easy to get taken out early by an unlucky shot, because in operations the ships tend to focus, you know, things all at once. So if you're in a squishy cruiser and suddenly you've got 4 or 5 bots firing at you, you're not necessarily going to last that long. But if you do get the right operation, then yes, the torpedoes can be very, very useful. So it's not useless in operations, but there are things I would rather take in ops. And especially even among the German crews as well. I mean, when you're competing against the king of ops cruisers, the Mainz, yeah, it sort of becomes a slightly tough sell. But if you've got it and you feel like a challenge, then yes, you absolutely can. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, you can do all the usual things down underneath it. And of course, as always, stay tuned for more.